Hello and welcome to the Too Much Time on Our Hands podcast. If you're watching us on the YouTube live stream, hello YouTube. Everyone wave. Just wave. Come on, wave at them.
Do it. It keeps them happy.
Here. Thanks very much for watching us and thanks very much for joining us. If you're listening to us on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, any other platform that you might be listening to just on the audio podcast, that's great. Thanks very much. But don't forget that the stream is actually something that we do, and it would be really nice if you could support it once in a while. Just if you wanted to, okay? That's fine. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the usual awesome foursome, but we're also joined today by Rich, who comes from Penguin Random House. We also know him as well, just to sort of put that straight out there. Rich is here to talk to us a little bit about the 2000 AD audiobooks / audioscapes, ? We're going to deal with that one a bit later, that have just come out and just been announced, so we're really excited about that. We're going to just very quickly introduce ourselves. Hello, Dan.
Hello.
Hello, Duncan.
Hi, Tom.
Hello, Russ.
Evening.
Rich, what's up?
Hello.
All right. And it's me, Tom. So anyway, before we get going, I would just like to say, in a complete surprise to the man himself, Dan, it's your birthday today.
What?
Oh, yes. There we go. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Shocking you've only
Thank
just found
you.
out at 9 in the evening.
Amazing,
Thank
isn't
you.
it? Amazing, isn't it? I mean, and, you know, this isn't the 5th time we've had to do this because of technical problems. So it's a complete surprise to everyone.
I'm shocked.
Absolutely. Okay, so what we wanted to do is we wanted to start this episode off because it is your birthday with just some very personal love letters. I went into a very long rambling thing about that time that we, you know, down by the waterfall.
Yeah, it got a bit
together.
uncomfortable, to be honest. I'm quite
Got
glad
a
that
bit
didn't
weird.
go out.
Got weird for everyone. I just want to say Dan is the man that kind of pulls us all together. He's the glue that sticks my bed sheets to my duvet. He's the guy that basically just makes sure that all this happens, and we do all sorts of things together and stuff like that. We played in bands together. I love you very much. I couldn't be happier that you're celebrating another year on this planet, and I hope you never ever leave my life. And who is going to go next? Let's go for random light. Shine your light on Russ. You tell him why you like him.
So I was trying to think of some of my favourite Danecdotes. Trademark
Not-
Ross, whatever year this is.
Not the coat hanger.
No, well, so I mean, obviously my favourite Danecdote is just absolutely not possible to go on here. But yeah, they do mainly involve you getting into difficulty in toilet situations. One of my friends is one of our first trips to Glastonbury together when you were we got the coach there.
Yeah.
And you would been, you know, knocking back the ginger beer on the way there and didn't take into account the sort of the 6-mile tailback that leads into the car park. And by the time we got there, your knuckles were gripping the back of that seat in front of us so hard that I think you left fingerprints on them. And then when the coach stopped, like, it was a bit busy. It's a bit like when a plane stops. Everyone tries to get up at once. They get in their bags. But you just disappeared. And there's a little trail of dust leading to the Portaloo next to the coach park, and one of them was just sort of rocking.
I was the first person off.
And when you came out, I was almost jealous of the experience that you'd been through, because when you came out, you looked the happiest I'd ever seen you for having relieved what you needed to do. And I don't think you've ever regained that high ever since.
No, that was the best. I've tried so hard. You know, sometimes I cut it too fine, and then that's just like a shattering experience instead. So we sat down and I drunk 1.5 liters of water because carrying your tent's thirsty work. And then as soon as we sat down, the guy came over the tannoy and said, just to let you know, the toilet's not working. And your face, Russ, after you saw me carrying this like empty bottle of water, was hilarious, because you knew exactly where that was going to go.
I mean, having drunk that bottle, the solution very much was in your hands there, but you didn't take that option, and that's credit to you, I think.
Yeah.
Probably for the best. So yeah.
That's good, and I think everyone should be feeling free to share anecdotes at inopportune moments. The second that they even pop into your head during the rest of this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
The second. Duncan, why do you like him?
We're going all round, are we? Okay.
My love letter, dear Dan.
Why do you like him?
Like,
What a ride.
You should be. Duncan's original idea was to do a slash fiction episode about this. So you got off lightly,
But
really.
each of us writing about the other making sweet, sweet love.
There's a
What
Google
they'd like
doc.
to see.
There's a Google doc out there, Dan, that you don't need to see. It's awful.
Bit-
You send it to me.
No, it's not brutal. I've been friends with you since those halcyon days of Verulam.
Oh yes.
Oh, how sweet they were. You know, we've been in a band together. We started a band together.
We did.
I
Still
even
waiting. Oh,
sang with you, and I was atrocious, so I apologise for that.
that's all.
Yeah. Favorite anecdote. There's so many. I mean, my favorite thing is how your dad permanently trolls you better than anyone ever could.
He
I
still
think
does.
he still
Still
does.
does.
I love him for it. I think my various ones are how you and I would. This is going to probably come out sounding dodgy, but you and I would drive around Hertfordshire. We would play maybe little miniature games
Mm.
or something. Or
No
maybe
idea what you're talking about. Yeah,
don't know what,
What,
we're talking
in
about.
the car.
yeah, it's very
Yeah, in the
difficult.
car. And you and I just you used to fall if we had been over in Hatfield with another friend driving back. You used to fall asleep. My driving was
Yeah.
that soothing and calming in a Ford KA.
Ah, I've got some bad news for you.
That's
Like,
not how
as
I
soon as I get in
remember
a car, that is like
You better not
like
be doing
God's
that
own
behind the
cradle
driver's seat.
for me.
There's,
like,
there's
I'm
lots of
immediately
words
go
I'd
to sleep.
associate with being given lifts by you in that car, Duncan, but soothing and calming are not ones that immediately leap to
No.
mind.
Um,
Finish
anyway,
little snack
you-
there, don't worry.
Yeah. Well, you were talking, so it was fine. You.
He-
Oh,
He
you
does
know.
know people can see him, doesn't he?
Yeah, occasionally. Henry Zabrowski bringing the chaos. I was totally lost from my train of thought now.
Yeah,
Thanks,
keep
Russ.
it tight, Duncan. Keep it tight.
Keep it tight.
That's, yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Dan,
Driving home
I
from
do.
friends.
I do 2 podcasts with you, and
do?
we still talk to each other, which is wonderful. Emma blames you for getting me into American football, and she's right about that.
Sorry,
So
but, you know.
that's all right.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
She's nodding. But it is, you know, we've been friends for. You've been there. You're a great mate. So
Aw,
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for all of
You-
this.
you
You
guys
know,
are all
there's a lot we
wonderful.
all thankful for, but I do remember with great fondness, and I still cannot go past a set of cones with lights on without thinking, "Oh, we could get those," and then looking over and go, "I don't have Dan with me. What's the point?
Yeah,
Where's the fun?
it was-
How are we going to divert traffic?" And that is it. Actually, that is probably my favourite, is when we divert, well, the numerous times that cones and road signs were diverted, and wasn't it around Verulam that you all diverted cars?
No.
No, that didn't happen.
This may have
Deny everything.
this may have
Baldrick.
grown slightly over the years. I think what actually happened was 2 cones were moved slightly, and then in the telling, it's become 200
entire-
miles of tailbacks around the country.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a long time ago.
Hmm.
Gotta tell the
Very
legend.
nice. Very nice. Rich, you've got 30 seconds. So, no, kidding.
I
You go
find
ahead.
I find you entirely tolerable.
Yay!
and,
Thank you. I
um,
find you more than
I've
tolerable.
almost forgiven you for making me guitar tech for you in the horn for all those years.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
go outside and change your strings outside the toilet. No, you're the person I ring when I'm having a really shocking week. Actually, I think that's the biggest praise I can give you is when I'm having a really rubbish time. You're the person I always want to talk to. I
No,
can't give you
thank you.
I can't give you a specific instance, but you're an excellent sanity sounding board. I would say.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thanks,
No.
guys.
Well, happy birthday, Dan.
That was
Happy
almost
birthday, Dan.
sincere, which coming from me is impressive.
Yeah, it really was. So thank you.
I think it's really appropriate that we're doing 2000 AD because, 2000, I'm so used. We're going to be dealing with a ruthless lawmaker who just enforces the rules, and then we're going to be talking about Judge Dredd.
We're going to visit the underground.
Sometimes I do get carried away, and I do apologise. So.
Love you for it, Dan,
That's
but
fine.
I just had to get it in there.
It's fine.
This
This
is exactly what he
podcast
said.
this podcast would be far worse if it weren't for your censorship. and telling me what I can and can't say.
Yeah.
Key
I
points.
think we've all been censored by Dan at some point.
Absolutely.
Hashtag silenced.
You all have at one point. Cancelled, surely. But there you go.
Cancelled. Yeah.
Well, we
Well,
all know.
fixed in post.
Just
Yeah.
removing 10 minutes of a podcast. Just, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, look, Dan.
Yeah.
Some more anecdotes are probably going to come out at key points, so you're just going to have to brace yourself for that. I'm going to hand over to you, Dan, because I think having listened to quite a lot of these audiobooks that we've got young Rich here to talk to us about, I'm going to hand over to you, mate. Happy birthday.
I'm not
by the way.
going to say too much because I want to hear all about these because having listened to them, they are excellent for starters.
Excellent. 5 are coming your way.
But it's
Is that official Random House policy?
it's what I've heard of them. They are. I think the best way I can describe them is they are exactly what I expected in the best kind of way, which was I knew how much work's gone into them, and I knew that they were going to be excellent, basically, and they were. They were exactly what I wanted from this. So, like, we just want to hear, I think, more about them in general because it is really good. So where did the idea come from?
And first of all, for the benefit of everyone that's not mates with Rich,
Yeah.
who are you and what do you do?
There you go.
Yeah.
God, I've been doing podcasting for like 8 years now.
So, Rich, who are you?
Professional.
What do you do?
How do you come into our life? So when I'm not sort of lurking around on Zoom calls with you lot, my day job is I'm the publisher for audiobooks at Penguin, which means sort of most of my time is spent making audiobook editions of titles that are being published in print or that were published in print many years ago. We're doing quite a lot of that at the moment as well. And these are a sort of slightly different take on the audiobook, I guess. So over the I've been working in audiobooks for about 5 years. And over that time, we've been doing more and more work where you might look at the print book and think, okay, that's not going to make sense as an audio recording. And we've been trying to sort of translate those titles, whether it's cookbooks or illustrated kids books or books of poetry. We have examples of all those recently, into audio editions that are a little bit more than just somebody reading the words, you know, that are enhanced in some way and that kind of try and convey a little bit of what you're getting from from the illustrations and from what's on the page. And we started talking to 2000 AD probably a couple of years ago now about the idea of adapting some comics, and that these have been in production for about, I think, probably about the last 6 months. And essentially what we're doing is taking the original comic, including the illustrations. So these are scripted not from the original scripts but from the graphic novels themselves. So we're writing scripts from the printed version with the illustration and art. Taking that and trying to transcribe that into audio. So in the case of some of these, you're kind of building on something that already has a narrator and a narrative voice. So Slaying the Horned God is maybe slightly closer to an audiobook because you've got a closed narration the whole way through that kind of carries the story, and you're then building out sound design and music and composition and everything that kind of fills in the gaps. When you've got multiple armies charging towards one another with 2 dragons fighting above, you're not going to just tell that story. You've got to kind of play that out. And so there's big kind of sound design pieces there. And I would say on, things like the 2 Judge Dredd stories that we've adapted, that you've got music and sound design and composition there that is not just conveying what's happening. It's giving you the feel and the mood, and it's kind of putting you in Mega City 1 without having to add loads of additional text, because the whole way through doing this we knew that we wanted to stick to what was already on the page, and there's very few deviations from the wording. We haven't added the typical way of doing this is you add tons of additional narration that describes what's happening in the panels. And we knew from the start we didn't want to do that. So these are, Tom, you kind of alluded to this at the start, but they're audiobooks. Like, they're very enhanced, they're full cast, there's music, there's sound design, there's sound beds, there's anything you want to care to name, but fundamentally they're the book, you know, done as an audio edition.
I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? It's essentially you're trying to take, especially when it comes to graphic novels, something that is an audio-visual thing that you require, you know, it almost requires while you're reading the comic book to see the picture, to read the words, to have the kind of the story painted for you in front of you. The fact that you've actually managed to make that purely out of sound so that it becomes something that you are now having to see in your mind rather than see on paper. That must have presented quite an interesting hurdle, I think, for this project. Would you agree? Sorry.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. And
there was a question then.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think the thing I'd say is, like, I didn't do any of that. So, you know, that we have an amazing production team who made these, and, like, you know, particularly Chris Thompson and Kate McDonald, who are the kind of primary creative leads on these for us, like, deserve all the credit in the world. They've done an absolutely amazing job. And, you know, those guys between them in scripting these, you know, we started from the original graphic novels. We pulled all the text out and then went through, you know, literally you're going through the comic, like panel by panel, what's in there that's not spoken out loud. Like, does that need to be in the audio or not? How do you get it in? Is there a way of working it in? You know, there's a reveal scene in, I won't spoiler it, but there's a reveal moment in America where we spent ages picking apart, like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Because that's a really complicated message to get across. And, you know, there's some moments, you know, action scenes, particularly in Fantasy and Slain, you know, you can convey an awful lot of what's going on because it's lots of people shouting at each other and whacking each other with swords. And that is, you know, it's labor intensive, but it's not complicated to convey. Some of the action scenes in Dread, where you've got gunfights and people jumping in and out of windows, and, you know, it's really complicated to get across. But if you're trying to do that without adding loads of additional description, which was the brief to ourselves the whole way through, yeah, it's really tricky. I think, like, honestly, you guys have listened. Like, you can be the judges of whether it works or not. But
it really does.
Well,
I think it does. Like, I think you can follow it.
I mean,
it's
to
quite
me,
amazing
actually,
what they do.
I mean, I used to occasionally, when doing some long drives before I got into podcasts, listen to Radio 4's Afternoon Play, and that's a play. This reads like one of those, and you go, this is technically an audio book, but it's a play. It really is such a fantastic production. I've only listened to America fully and partway through Slain. I'm loving Slain. I loved America, but like the Demolisher coming through, that was really, really effectively. That really stuck in. I was like, oh wow, that's really cool. How do you get something that big and menacing? Well, you did it. It was intense. And then the way how it really threaded the whole story of connecting all these slightly different stories in America to the overarching sort of narrative art. It was really, really well done.
Yeah, America. I mean, what I think are incredibly complimentary things to say about it. Firstly, one of the best things about it is when I listen to America and when I listen to The Pit, they sound like they're in two different places. Like, and you can tell that, like, The Pit is slightly, like, more, like, dreary, more drudgy kind of, like, this is the worst of the worst kind of areas. Yeah. Whereas when you listen to America, it's very much, he's in, a lot of the time he's in an office.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is, I can tell the difference between guns in it. So, like, when one gun goes off, I can tell you that it's different from, like, another gun that they've mentioned. They have to mention, like, what the guns are for me to do it, but, like, I could tell you what it's the Lawgiver, the guns in Dread, isn't it? Yeah, I could tell you what the Lawgiver sounds like compared to, like, another gun in those, and I think that's speaks volumes to even, like, that's kind of a big part of particularly The Pit with the guns as well. So, like, it's the fact that they've obviously had to spend time thinking about how to make it work, and they've really nailed it. Like, it's
it's obviously nobody's just gone to, like, a stock sound effects library and downloaded, you know, your 100 free gun sound effects off of YouTube and
Yeah.
stuck it in. This is just oozing with care and attention and real effort that's gone into sort of solving that problem of how do you tell a visual story without any images.
Yes.
There was a back and forth that I was involved in at one point about what does Dread's bikes with a Lawmaster, what does that sound like? And it's like Chris was talking. There's a video that we're putting out. So tomorrow, as we record and stream this, and yesterday, if you're listening on the podcast, which is a kind of making of thing, and that'll go live at some point tomorrow. And I think Chris in that is talking about the process of how you kind of create the sound of that bike, and like the most useful thing that we all realised was the bike's supposed to scare the crap out of people. Like all the judges' gear. If you think about Dread as social commentary. You know, the point that Dread's making is that like all of the gear, all of the armor, the uniform, the face masks, the bike, it's a tool of repression, right? That's the point.
Yeah, particularly the bikes. Whenever you see them drawn, they're always like looming out of the panel at you. They're sort of there's a weird forced perspective on them. Dread's kind of tiny at the back, and the thing is just like roaring into your face.
And Dread's massive, so it's the fact that he's
Because I suppose if you think about it like logically, you go, well, it's that, you know, they're probably going to be electric. They're probably just go zzz, but that's not going to be very effective. So
but you can spend a long time, and I know because I've done it, like going through like bike engine clips on YouTube. Like, Tom, this is what you do for fun, right? I think. But like, you know, and you're kind of like, okay, no, that just basically sounds like a hairdryer. Right up to like even the Harley clips don't work. So you've got to go to the souped up Harleys where someone's really spent time making that bike even louder than it normally is. And then obviously it can't sound like a 20th century motorbike. So you've got to layer on. There's like levels of sounds on kind of layered on top of the sound of a bike engine to get it to sound that sort of slight bit otherworldly.
Amazing.
And that's I suppose that's sort of the thought process. But I think it's interesting what you're saying about America versus the Pit, because they're really different stories. You know, the Pit's it's like a hard-bitten cop thriller. America's kind of quite reflective, and
it's
sort of Dread in social commentary mode, and that's part of what we were trying to do is, you know, find those stories that felt like there was, you know, stories that really had something to say, I suppose, about particularly now.
America
could have been
Dread,
written last year.
The character Dread is not really a main character in America as much. He's very much sort of on the periphery, observing and commenting and things, but he's not kind of driving the plot in the same way. Well, and it's got a very different feel to it. It's got that sort of
very much the villain
lost optimism feeling in America. Whereas I love the Pit. I've just finished reading it again. It's it's basically just like a really cool crime procedural, but in this amazing setting.
Yeah, it's like a police procedural, isn't it?
In the Pit, he's more of a hero, whereas isn't he? I can't remember.
Well, you know, that's the question, isn't it? Judge Dredd, hero or not? I mean, you could spend. People have spent many hours arguing about this sort of thing.
I know, but I mean, in America, he really doesn't really come across as
Although, like, of the judges in America, I don't think he comes over the worst by any means.
Well, that's saying something. Although, to be fair, this does actually take us down quite a good path, really, I guess is the point, is that when you're dealing with a comic book property like this, you're going to have people who have been reading the comic books for years, in love with the characters for years, can pull these characters apart, have very specific ideas of who should play them in any sort of live action or other media format. So let's do the thing that we always like to do. Let's talk about the talent. Who and how and why did you come to pick the people that play the characters in these books? Let's start with Dredd, because it's a good starting point.
Was like the whole brief to ourselves the whole way through was we wanted people who would sound right first and foremost, and that sounds blindingly obvious, but like how they're going to sound on tape is the ultimate thing of how much people are going to enjoy the experience. You've got to think about their ability to do the character. And then I think, you know, below that we wanted people that were going to be comfortable in in these worlds, and so people that kind of understood how to perform sci-fi or fantasy in the case of Slane, and were kind of comfortable in genre roles. So people
It's a
that
very
had some degree of
heightened kind
record.
of performance that must be. This is not your sort of mumbly method acting type thing. You've really got to be prepared to step out your comfort zone a bit, I'd imagine, with this.
Yeah, and it's like they're quite full-on performances. There's lots of, like, there's screaming and dying, and you've got to go right at it. So people that were going to be comfortable really going for it, but we also wanted people that were going to bring something slightly different, I think, to the roles, because like particularly characters like Dredd that have been played before, and really famously in 2 cases, particularly Dredd. You wanted someone we wanted people that weren't going to do it in a way that felt just like it was knocking off what had already been done.
I love that.
So that was a steer. So like people that were going to be comfortable in the world, and people that would deliver the right performance, but didn't feel like they were the obvious choice necessarily.
Yeah, like so Joseph Fiennes plays Dredd, and what I like about what I've always understood, it's the same issue I have with Batman when I see things, which is like Batman doesn't need a scary voice to be scary. Like Batman could have a very understated voice, and I think Joseph Fiennes kind of does that. Joseph Fiennes sounds like a cop, but you're imagining Judge Dredd, and you're imagining Judge Dredd is incredibly scary. He doesn't need to be growling his way through that, and I think he does an exceptional job in this. If I'm honest, I really like it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think people are very invested in that character, like of all of them, like particularly in Dredd, and there are, I think there is the Carl Urban depiction is probably like the archetype, and that's what people will measure this against. Honestly, I think in audio, like what you've got in Joseph Fiennes is quite nuanced by comparison.
Yeah,
and it's quite like it's like he's menacing, right? It's threatening. Quite a dark portrayal of Dredd, I think, particularly in America. It's quite like there's an undertone of nasty in there. I think the work that we were looking at *Handmaid's Tale* and looking at that kind of that performance, and that's where this came from. It's that kind of dystopian experience that he's got that really drew us to him, I think.
Yeah, you can tell. It's not like 100% all the time. You can tell when he's angry, you can tell when he's upset, and you can tell when he's in control of a situation as well.
Yeah,
it comes across really well.
Yeah, and I think particularly of the two, particularly for America, like you need someone that can do that. It's like you said, he's in really morally questionable territory the whole way through America. Everything's happening in that story is unsettling, and it's meant to be.
Yeah.
So it's like you're supposed to find it, I think, a bit disturbing, even though I think arguably of the judges he is a good guy in that particular strip. But like the whole thing is really quite unpleasant in a way. So you've got to feel that.
Yeah.
So it's Dredd as all of those things rather than Dredd as like the drill sergeant, which is what you're maybe more used to seeing him.
Yeah.
Do.
Yeah,
it was Dredd the politician, really, which was really interesting.
Yeah, he kind of you see more sides of Dredd in these stories. That, like, so the films, if you're thinking of those kind of representations, it's I mean, I think we can broadly dismiss the earlier one, and the Carl Urban one is basically it's a massive long action scene. It's not hugely a dialogue driven movie, so
no.
The way he plays it in that is very effective for doing that, but you couldn't really use that kind of portrayal if you were trying to get some actual nuance and some humanity into that character, because he's not RoboCop. He's a sort of layered, complex being. So it's nice to be able to actually see some of that, or hear rather some of that coming through.
Yeah, definitely.
Patterson Joseph as the narrator. He has one of the best voices I've heard in a very long time. He's perfect for it.
Yeah, I love him.
Very soothing, but at the same time, like very immediate. Everything, you're listening to everything he's saying, and he cuts right through like anything in the background. He's perfect for it.
Yeah, no, I love him as a performer. I think the stuff he's done. Like I used to love his character in Neverwhere, going back
Yes.
absolutely young. The most common response to us announcing that he was doing it was Peep Show. Actually, like everybody on, there's just a million responses on Twitter. Just with not a million. I wish there were a million, but there were a lot of responses on Twitter like Peep Show memes. That seems to be the sort of predominant reaction to it. But yeah, no, he's amazing. He's like we've worked with him before. He read The Three Musketeers for us a couple of years ago, which you should also listen to. It's brilliant.
On it, yeah.
But he's a great narrator and a great character actor, and I think that that combination of things really works for that part.
Did you ever consider getting Andy Serkis or Stephen Fry involved in any of these audiobooks? Or
I mean, when you're talking about any audiobook, is there kind of like a timer running before somebody says Stephen Fry? It can't ever be that long before somebody suggests him.
Well, we publish Stephen anyway, so we have we've done the Mythos series with him. So I mean, we talk about Stephen Fry a lot. But
as is right.
I guess not for this. So and I think the sense was, if you look at the big casting choices in this, they're all people who played vaguely similar roles at least before. So Joseph Fiennes, Handmaid's Tale, there was a degree of kind of obvious synergy there. Sheila Atim is in The Underground Railroad, which is the big upcoming Netflix Colson Whitehead adaptation, and is phenomenal. I think she does an amazing job. Colin Morgan in Slain, we were talking before we came on about the Merlin connection and the fan base that he's got from that. They're all great. And then I think actually the Brink casting is phenomenal. So like Richard Armitage is amazing, and Nina Sasanya. When we were talking to Dan Abnett about the part, we'd sketched a shortlist and mentioned her name, and Dan was saying, look, actually she's literally who I was picturing when I was writing the character. So and her playing the lead in that is phenomenal. I think she does an amazing job. So kind of across the board, it kind of feels like you've kind of got those people who've got the right performances and the right kind of resonance.
I am definitely going to be saving Brink until
same.
Because Emma's a big Richard Armitage fan, so I am kind of saving it for when we can probably listen to it together, because I think those two together are just going to be wonderful. I'm looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. I mean, I'm loving Slain. I love that. So talking of casting, like Slain is perfect. Everyone, were these all the people who are, oh yeah, they can do it, because when it needs to be sultry, it's sultry. I mean, I was driving, so I had to try and keep control, but it was quite I was in the camper van, so it's easy. I could just pull over and pull the curtains; it'd be fine. But
what everyone was after was logistics there, so I'm glad. That's
the detail we need.
That is the highway code approved way of doing it, though.
Pretty well.
Yeah,
It's like answering a mobile
Slain was
phone.
probably the one that I least had a sort of preconceived idea of how it would sound, if you know what I mean.
Same here.
Yeah,
I think with Dread, I was like, yeah, I know what Dread sounds like, even though of course you don't. Although the first 10 seconds of the pit, the way it just it puts you in the world so well. I wasn't really expecting that. It was so cool. But yes, I think so. Literally just the guy's voice is not something I'd ever really kind of thought about how it would actually sound. So it's really interesting to actually hear it come to life.
It was phenomenal because when we were first thinking, okay, can you actually take a graphic novel, not re-script it, and just tape it? We actually got someone to demo the opening, it was 15 minutes or so, of Slain. So there's a really, really early version, which is all like guide voices and some kind of quite basic sound design. Like the guy we got to do it was really enjoying himself, so went a bit to town, but more so than we were expecting. Kind of was writing big theme songs and so on. But so there's a version of that opening chunk with different voices in it that we kind of used as a, I guess, test case for whether this would work. So when I got the final mix of Slain, you're listening to that and it's the same words and roughly the same kind of structure around the sound design, but different voices. And when Colin Morgan comes in and gives the first line, which is him, he's being dragged along in a cage, and he's like, I can't remember the exact wording, but it's if I ever get out of here, I'm going to kill you. Directed, okay. I was like, that is absolutely, like, not having heard the final version before. It's absolutely the voice in my head, certainly. Like, I don't know, it won't be the voice in everyone's, and that's the great thing about these. Is, you know, everyone's got their own version of that character, and everyone will hear it differently. But yeah, I think he absolutely nailed it. He's brilliant.
Personally, I'm really looking forward to the idea that projects like this will come to do for properties like 2000 AD. For instance, the Peter Jackson films did for Lord of the Rings was to put identifiable sounds, looks, feels, something that would make the property identifiable to all new markets that might have missed it. You know, for someone like me, I read Lord of the Rings, you know, as a book before I saw any films and stuff. And then finally, when I see it now, Gandalf, whenever I read the books, it's always Ian McKellen's voice that I hear in my ears.
Yeah.
I'm hoping now.
Ian McKellen, Gandalf the Grey.
Yeah, so Ian.
So Ian.
You know, and I'm hoping that that's what this will kind of afford 2000 AD. Not that it, you know, it isn't well known, but just that now people will be able to put identifiable faces, names to these performances, and actually open it up to a whole new market. This is a new way to experience it. I mean, I know the one thing people are clamoring about for Dredd is a sequel to the Dredd film that had Carl Urban in it, and it's unlikely that we're going to be seeing one really ever. I think it's great now that Dredd can live on in this. That must be something quite of a hook for Penguin Random House to hang their hat on, really.
Well, I guess the only thing for me is like it cuts both ways, right? It's for every person that either comes to this new and so that's their version of those characters, or who like feels you've hit it on the head. There are always going to be people who it doesn't quite sound like them, or it's, you know. So like I think you've got the comics are the definitive versions, right? That's the original. That's what it was written for. Mm-hmm. You know, someone like Alan Moore has talked a lot about, you know, he loved comics because he felt like you could write things for comics that you couldn't write for anything else. So I think, you know, you've got to coming at this as an adapter of the original works. You've got to be quite respectful of the fact that you'll never nail it for everybody, and you've got to be kind of relatively comfortable with that, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, like certainly that point around bringing some of these stories to new audiences, that was sort of the original thing for us. Is, you know, there's a lot of people out there who might be a bit familiar with 2000 AD. They might certainly probably know who Dredd is. You know, if you're an SF fan, you probably know who Dredd is, but you won't necessarily have read these. You won't necessarily have got into the characters, and like they're really current, they're really contemporary stories. They've got so much to say. Some of these were written 25 plus years ago. Like they've got so much to say about the world we're living in right now. It's like all good science fiction. It's a mirror held up to the society you're living in.
I don't think it's... Sorry, go on.
No. I was just fudging my way through the end of an answer. That's all good. Go for it.
I don't think as well you can call yourself a comic historian without knowing what 2000 AD did for comics as well.
Yeah.
There is that side of things. Like without 2000 AD, you don't have Vertigo. Like,
yeah,
basically the idea of like these kind of almost like punk comic books made their way over to America by America literally coming in and taking a load of the writers and the artists to DC.
Yeah,
and then forming
DC just
Vertigo
poached loads of people, didn't they? So you know,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. I think like honestly, I was thinking about this the other day. Even like culturally, like outside of graphic novels and the comic medium, you know, the kind of advent of 2000 AD, it's such a boiling point in culture. So much of what happens, you know, not just in comics, but even kind of culture more broadly, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it happened because of 2000 AD, but, you know, late 70s, early 80s, there's so much of a changing point in, like, particularly British kind of cultural life that 2000 AD speaks to, you know, whether it's punk rock or, you know, heavy music or all of that kind of thing. It feels like a lot of what happened in the early days of 2000 AD was sort of indicative of the direction the culture was moving in.
Yeah. it's halfly designed to make you feel uncomfortable a lot of the time as well.
Yeah,
like
Well,
with some of the most amazing artwork you will see in comics as well.
yeah.
Yeah, the
I mean-
visuals in 2000D are ridiculous and incredible. And
But that's
just so
what's so
well
good
realised.
about these audiobooks is that comes across in an audio format as well. It's so well done.
It's
Very,
very
very
it's very grimdark, isn't it? It's almost this
Yeah,
sort of
it is.
it's beyond dystopia. It's like it's just abandon hope, all ye who enter here.
Well,
It's
I
very
mean,
cool.
it's almost
you say
like
grimdark,
that.
there is a lot of cross-pollination between 2000 AD and Games Workshop. There's quite a
Yeah.
lot of
Talking
writers
about-
and artists that have circulated between the two.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Talking about Games Workshop and dystopian futures of that in the 41st millennium, there's only war. Another anecdote, because why not? We used to. I just
Damn it,
used
we
to
need
love...
we need a little jingle for this.
Dun, dun, dun.
And now it's time for a Danecdote. Danecdotes, sponsored by Dettol.
I just used to love going around your parents' house, and when we went and played Necromunda. I mean, Necromunda, straight out of 2000 AD.
That is,
Oh,
that
yeah,
is
like-
literally Mega City 1. That's
They,
just,
Yeah,
they
it is,
should
yeah.
be paying royalties. They really should.
Really
Because
should.
I was
it
listening to the
basically is.
pit and just thinking, yeah, Necromunda's very similar to this. So yeah,
It's pretty well just ripped off, but yeah, that was always fun because it was spending an evening with my mates, snacking on things and drinking. Well, in this case, it was soft drinks, but I mean, not much has changed.
trying
We've
not
just
to knock
gone
over
full
scenery.
circle.
Yeah,
Trying not to
Also,
knock over-
speaking of bleak dystopian,
Whoa! Is that to me? Is that to me? Knocking over scenery? Come on! I
No,
probably did
no,
do it
it's
quite a
to
lot.
everyone.
realistically, yeah.
yeah.
also speaking about bleak dystopian backdrops, Dan, do you remember when we played a gig at Jarman Park in Hemel Hempstead?
I do. We no joke. A week later, it closed.
We played at Jumping Jacks,
Yeah.
which was empty apart from the people we bought, and
No
the other
jumping,
bands.
no jacks.
No jumping, no jacks.
Yeah.
And we had the green area, which was the platform upstairs that was only empty because there was no one in the bar.
Yeah.
I mean, our parents were there. Some friends were there. It was, bleak.
I don't think I was at that one, but I always think about you guys playing Jumping Jacks whenever I watch the Office Christmas special and David Brent goes on at Mumbo Jumbos. I just imagine you guys trying to play in that sort of
It was,
disgusting semi club.
It was atrocious. It was fun, but it
Yeah.
was very under attended.
The gig I always remember is, I can't remember the name of the place. It was in Luton, and it was in the back room of a club where the front room
Phoenix
was.
Club.
It was at the Phoenix, where it was
Yeah.
like just loads of guys playing dominoes,
Yes.
and
It-
then you were in the back room with
Yeah.
like, again, I think about 5 of us. But it was the dominoes because you could still hear them
yeah.
from the bar where the music was.
There was a domino society above, so you had to go through that to get to the toilets. When you got there, it was half a house. It was clearly half a terraced house where they'd knocked down half of it and then put tarpaulin like over like where it was. And then also there was, I swear, I might be imagining this like heavily exaggerated, but I swear there was a car on fire in the car park as well.
I
like-
think it was a tire. I think there was a
Oh, okay.
tire on
There you
fire.
go.
in
That
the
sounds
car
more
park.
realistic.
No, but there was I think the fire is the really important bit of the story. 'cause-
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's coming from a car,
yeah, like
an open oil drum,
drum or,
or just a
burning
tire.
car tire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, claim to fame though, we supported Mark Morris. We supported Mark Morris from the Blue Tones.
If you're the one person that didn't know that,
Yeah, that was pretty good. That was certainly the most
high profile gig I've
exciting
ever
and
played.
high profile gig that I've ever played.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
that was good. That was good. Basically playing to a bunch of people waiting for someone else to come on.
Yeah, that's the fate of all support acts, really,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I remember when Dan got his guitar, like his Telecaster, and for many years it was. I don't know how much he still loves it. I'm sure he still does, but at
still
one
got it.
point it was certainly You still got it, but okay. Well, I know at one point you probably loved it more than any of us.
No.
Yeah, no.
But it's-
I mean, I see when we played together, you were using the sort of casino,
I've
like the
still got that, the dot.
ES335, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The dot, yeah.
Yeah. I remember
Very
trying to
nice.
make you play stoner metal covers on that, and it just feedbacking every 5 seconds.
I'm still up for that. Let's just do that.
No. It
Yeah.
was, I think it was a bold instrument choice for the material.
It's all I had. It's my only guitar that works properly, so maybe I'll get the telly.
So, as we're talking about music,
Yeah.
this is going to segue nicely. How did you pick? What was it? Thompson and McDonald, who did a lot. They did the scores, yeah.
Yeah, well, so I mean, Kate. So those guys are part of our team. So we have an in-house. We have an in-house production team who embraced this with open arms and worked with. So they produced both Dread Stories and Halo Jones, and then Rich Hughes, who is an external kind of freelance producer who we do a lot of work with, and he's a really keen musician and performer. Did Slane and Brink. So that was kind of the split of labour. So yeah, so those guys are part of our team. Kate's an amazing composer, and so it sort of settled into this was never the intention from the outset, but it settled into a pattern where Kate was doing the majority of the composition, and that was kind of informing the sound design, and Chris was doing most of the hands-on production with talent and directing and so on, and was doing the sound design, the actual kind of the sound effects and sound bed bits as well. So it's kind of a lot of it is a big team effort from those guys, and it's it was an amazing piece of work. It's not like anything we've done in house before.
Yeah.
There's 360 odd characters across the 5 titles, 800 minutes of sound design. I think it was 40 recording sessions in 4 countries across 2 continents to get it all taped. Like and that's in lockdown, right? So you're recording, some of those sessions are people in multiple locations, including some people who are at home, one prominent person who was in quarantine in a hotel. Like just the logistics alone is incredible. But yeah, those guys are part of the team and kind of just massively stepped up. It was a phenomenal piece of work from them. Absolutely phenomenal.
Really was, because well, you'll know, but everyone can know on the podcast that a few of us are quite big fans of the synthwave type genre, which is all. And before the disappointment that was Cyberpunk 2077 came out, there were some really good playlists that revolved around that, and listening to what was in America I was like, yes. I mean, it just you're very lucky to have Kate and Chris, because they are phenomenal. That was really good. The music was bang on. Like the sound effect, the soundscape was brilliant, and the music was like the opening music is just, you're suddenly already on the edge, and all the way through you're suddenly all edge, and you can't breathe because it's boot on you, and you're like, and then it finishes, you're like, I still can't breathe. That was exhausting. And a lot of that is just to do with the music,
I don't need to listen to it now. I'm
atmosphere
just going to
created.
watch Duncan recreate his experience of it.
Yeah, I think we could do a YouTube stream, couldn't we?
Rich,
Reenacting America.
Rich, how do you think it feels to be able to create a more convincing, living, breathing world just by using sound than CD Projekt Red managed to do with 2077? Really keen to get your insight on that.
I think we had a less challenging scope than I don't know. Look, I'm really happy with this, and by all accounts that was a disaster, wasn't it? So
yeah.
What was the relationship with 2000 AD like while you were through production? I mean, because like you obviously the publisher for the audio books. So did you kind of just like, was it quite a collaborative process, or was it more just like they say you've got the rights, go and do it?
No, it was really close. Like we've been working with them really, really closely the whole way through, and we also, so Rebellion, who are the kind of parent company 2000 AD, we published their books as well. So we do their kind of unabridged science fiction list in audio. So we've got a really close relationship with them. We work with them a lot, and they were really involved. So they were really involved in the casting. They were really involved in the selection of the titles. So we knew there were certain things we wanted to. We wanted them to feel really contemporary. We were looking for titles that were kind of lend themselves well to audio, so things that weren't too action heavy, and nobody wants to listen to 2.5 hours of just pure gunfire. So
No.
Trying to make sure there were things where you could follow it a bit more easily. So they were really involved in that selection. They were really involved in the casting, and that was really close. And it was a really collaborative relationship the whole way through. So it's definitely not a case of just take the rights and run.
Yeah, amazing.
Did any of the writers get any kind of? Did you get to speak to any of the writers about it, or?
Yeah, and I like Dan Abnett particularly was quite involved, and actually we had a really helpful conversation where we were trying to figure out, because in Brink it's really hard to tell what accent those characters would speak with. There's no obvious touch points for whether it's British English or American English, and actually so we had a really helpful conversation with Dan that turned out that actually he'd been hearing the characters as British in his head the whole way through, which was helpful because that's what we were picturing, but it's helpful to have a sense check from the people involved in creating it. So he was really closely involved.
Yeah, so it'd be heartbreaking if you put all this work into it and then 5 seconds in the writer just goes, oh no, that's not right. So trying to get that kind of engagement and just get their opinions on it.
Yeah,
Really
and you're
useful.
trying to identify intention a lot of the way through. You're trying to get, how's that meant to sound? What's it meant to feel like? And sometimes you can get that from the comics, but sometimes you've got to sort of work your way through it and figure it out. So, definitely.
So they've not been out for too long yet.
They're out tomorrow.
Okay, so
they've been up for pre-order since just before Christmas. They're actually out tomorrow. So.
Excellent. So they've been available on pre-order for quite a while. How's it looking? I mean, is the uptake positive? I mean, let's keep it vague, obviously.
No. Yeah, look, I mean, it's we've been in the kind of pre-order charts on Audible pretty much since we announced them, and like as we've been talking about them more and more over the last few weeks, we've been at various points pretty close to the top of those charts. That feels really positive.
Brilliant.
We have to wait and see. But it feels like there's been a lot of engagement with the announcements that we've made, and certainly when we started talking about casting and so on, there's been some excitement and lots of people talking about it. So it feels really positive.
Are you thinking of doing more of these?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's a really interesting. I mean, I suppose it's not that. It's weird, isn't it? It's not that different to an audio book in the sense that you're not adapting the text, but then it is a completely different way of actually interpreting that story. Presumably a lot more work than locking somebody in a recording studio with a copy of their own book and a glass of water and just telling them to get on with it, which as far as I'm concerned is all you need to do with a normal audio book.
just a bottle of whiskey,
Yeah.
and a packet of cigarettes. Yeah.
Mind the gap.
Do it better, or we'll get Stephen in to do it for you. He's right out there.
Did I hear my name?
Yeah. I'm a national fucking treasure.
But yeah, so obviously this is a far more involved production in from every, the choosing the story, planning it, scoring it, the soundscape. You've got to cast it.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty involved process. But is it something that you think you would like to try and explore more of?
Yeah, it is. Like, even if you weren't doing the sound design, just getting that range of voices cast, and we've done some kind of full cast audiobooks in the past, and they're a ton of work. The logistics are really complicated. The edit's much more complicated. You've got a much more difficult challenge just getting, just basics like getting the levels right, making sure it's all balanced correctly, and like the post production on those is much more complex. And then throw in, you're doing, if you're creating sound design for these, a day's work gives you minutes of sound design. It's a full day's composition. it is like, you know, is a few minutes of the score. So if you think these are 2.5, 3.5 in one case hours long, just multiply that out, and the volume of work on these is way in excess of what you normally do. But the listening experience is like, it's really rich and complex, and there's loads going on in there, and it's really rewarding. And I think, yeah, adapting these kind of stories, definitely. And then it makes you think, you know, we've been working over the last few years on what can you do to make a book that feels like it shouldn't make sense in audio, like a really engaging listening experience. How can you get emotion into a story? How can you get action into a story if you need to? Like, I think this just raises the bar for what you can do in audio, and what you might look at as a publisher and think, you know, 10 years ago we would have just written that off, and today, actually, do you know what, we'll have a go. You know, we can see a way of making that a really kind of engrossing, great listening experience. So that's
also there's 4 people here who are more than happy to lend their voices to any upcoming productions. You know, any big heroes. Well, Dan with his soft honey-like tones over there. We've got Russ.
I can only do Northern, or, occasionally Welsh if I can get it right, or Adam Driver / George Lucas / Kermit the Frog. Yeah.
So we'll get that all down. Get that all down.
That's your official acting bio, is it?
Yeah.
Well, all of them pretty convincing though. But yeah.
When I used to work on at what was it, RBS, on the telephones, there was always a couple of women who rang up going, "Oh, you've got a voice for radio." So I
think they meant face for radio, don't they?
Clearly haven't listened to the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they don't. No. Well, this was before podcasting, the glories of podcasting days. So yes. Well, no, I can be professional.
So
try it sometime.
Yeah.
So we're available.
You're all very high on my next round of casting shortlist.
Of course. Absolutely.
If we're talking comic characters, I'd like to play Gambit, please.
Yeah, consider it done.
Cool. Let's have your best Creole accent then.
You really want me to do this? Because it might come across as offensive. So, no.
Fair enough.
No, I'm just not doing it.
I'll do Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi for when you guys get the rights to Star Wars, obviously.
Obviously, excellent. Thank you.
Obviously, yeah, brilliant. Russ has the same voice as someone I work with, so
I'll play him.
That might be quite.
Him,
that might be quite interesting.
Who would be your who'd be your number one? Like, if you could play any character, who are you going for? Who do you want to be?
What, me personally?
I mean, I couldn't act my way out of a wet paper bag, so probably someone who stands there and does very little.
Comes across really well on the audio.
Droid number 4.
Yes. Yeah. Any tree.
Tree.
No, for me it would be Obi-Wan. He's Obi-Wan Kenobi, one of the most badass Jedi of all time, I think. Brilliant.
Well, also, you do get personal lessons from your good friend Ewan McGregor. So.
Absolutely, yeah. I get coached by the man himself.
The man with a similar name himself, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
I would probably do because I'm quite proud of it in Panto when I was Gollum, so
nice.
I was quite pleased with that.
Toast of London, or any Matt Berry characters in general.
Yeah.
Fire the nuclear weapons.
Fire the nuclear weapons. Fire the nuclear weapons.
One of my favourite characters of all time from anything is Sam Vimes, and if you can get this applied to the Discworld, I will be your eternal servant in whatever way you deem fit. So just bear that in mind as well.
Yeah, Sam Vimes is one that's really difficult as well. How do you do him?
Well, I mean, probably won't plan it out on the pod tonight.
He's kind of he's just a guy, really, isn't he? So
let's cast it.
Yeah, right.
Standing in front of a girl asking.
Let's do it. World Cup of Sam Vines. Let's start with all the voices we can think of.
We need to announce the winner. That's a good point, actually. We'll get to that in a second.
And we'll get to that in a second. Absolutely. Sorry, I need to just go.
Is there a producer talking in your ear or something that we don't have?
Yeah,
access to?
hang on.
This is you. This is you.
Yeah.
Do you need to go?
Yeah,
Hang on, hang on.
I
Tom.
dread to think where this one's
These aren't
actually
even plugged
going.
into
but,
anything.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's all for show.
Oh, we're back in just
Okay. Here we go.
He's gone.
My concern is that Tom isn't socially distancing with Ewan McGregor, who I would think is inevitably about to turn up.
Did we say his name?
Depends how big a box he's
Just
keeping
5
him in, I
times, yeah.
suppose.
We say Ewan McGregor's name too many times.
I think he's got a new printout, so this one might not have the lines across it like the last one did. I mean, Ewan McGregor might not have the lines.
Tom
across
has
it.
left the Zoom call and somebody else is here, not
There
quite
he is.
aligned properly.
Hello, boys.
Needs to be a bit closer. There he is.
Hello, boys.
Hey,
Hello.
Ewan, how you doing?
That's great. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, no, it's great to be here. I thought I'd drop in just to see how everyone was doing, especially to wish a happy birthday to my very good friend Dan.
Oh, we're friends.
done.
Good.
Absolutely. Happy
good.
birthday. It's
Thank you.
fabulous. to
Ewan,
see you.
sorry you lost out on the 2000 AD audiobook gig. That must have been a bit of a blow.
I have to admit it was a bit of a blow. After submitting several tapes of my voice to Rich's personal email addresses to be ignored so brazenly by this person down here. I'm only kidding, Rich. I think you've done a fantastic job, and it was great to see where's Rich gone? Oh, he's gone.
He's just left.
He's gone in
That's-
disgust.
I scared him away. That's terrible. I can't believe he didn't stay to face the music of Moulin Rouge.
There he is.
Oh, there you are. Hello there.
Yeah, well,
How's it going,
better
Ewan,
luck
anyway?
next time.
Absolutely. Well, it's fine. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series is basically what I'm pinning my retirement on. So it's
Pinning
okay.
your
I don't
retirement
need.
on a series that has been confirmed to have Hayden Christensen in it. So good luck with that.
Good luck.
Yes, I mean, look, we can all forgive past performances in films,
Can
but Hayden Christensen is actually awful on so many levels that I can't stress enough how terrible he is as a human being, not just as an actor.
There's actually,
Do we have
we're not
lawyers?
going to go into it, but there is a 2000 AD audiobook connection to the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series.
Absolutely. Well, it's like 5 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon. You're never more than 5 steps away from Ewan McGregor.
Awesome bacon.
That is rather threatening, but okay, that's good to know.
So tell me, reveal the link.
No, well, it's fine. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, Ewan, it's lovely to talk to you, but I mean, we are an hour and a bit into this podcast, so if you wouldn't mind letting Tom put you back in your little box.
Absolutely, that's fine. But look, I just want to say happy birthday, Dan. Well done to you and to everyone else on the Too Much Time on Our Hands podcast for continuing with what you're doing. And Rich, pleasure to see you again. When we collaborate on the next series of books, which we will collaborate on, I'm delighted.
Have you ever worked with a sheet of paper before,
Why
Rich?
is his forehead getting bigger?
I mean, I work in books, so I do it quite frequently.
Fair enough, yeah.
Okay, well, look, bye, boys. I'll see you soon.
Yeah. Bye, Ewan.
Fucking hell.
Oh, he's actually going to the lengths of turning it off back on again.
There he
He's
is,
changed
yeah.
his
He
name
can
in
just
a
put it
minute,
down.
isn't
No. Well, he's got to change his name back from Ewan McGregor now as
The
well.
important
This
thing
another
is,
couple of minutes,
it
yeah.
keeps him happy.
It really does. It really
Worryingly
does,
so, but
Mhm.
yes.
Where were we?
Tom's back.
And I'm back. Hey, guys, how's it going?
Yes, definitely.
Very well.
Right, come on.
That's
We're
right.
we're overrunning quite. Well, not very much, but we do have a tendency
Hey.
to self-indulgence. Daniel,
Yeah, winner
end the
of the
suspense.
winner of the World Cup of TV themes, which feels like it's gone on for 4 years now. The winner, the finalists, were Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Red Dwarf.
Mm-hmm.
The winner won by 2 votes in the end.
Rich, who would you have picked?
I did pick, but I'm not going to tell you until Dan's revealed the winner, because you might blame me.
There was the winner won by 2 votes. There was 80 votes for one and 78 for the other. I think it was. The winner was Red Dwarf.
Hey!
That is
Correct
correct.
answer.
I don't know why we bother asking people their opinions when we've got the right ones already.
It had a late
Exactly.
resurgence. Like it started off really, really far behind, but then the last
Did
few
you
days,
build a botnet to vote for it, Dan?
yeah. Well, gents, too much time on our hands. My own account. Yep. But aside from them, yeah, and a couple of the other ones I set up for a laugh, the Arsehole Archers, and Repaint the Mona Lisa. So yeah, they might have voted as well. But, yeah, it was set up for
honestly,
a very
we believe in
specific joke.
democracy.
Yeah.
Well, do we?
So we'll come back in a couple of weeks, maybe with a new World Cup of something. I've got an idea, but we'll talk about that.
You
later.
voted for Fresh Prince, didn't you, Rich?
Really?
It's not a superior TV show. It is a superior theme tune.
It's a really good theme tune.
You're wrong,
You're
but we love you anyway.
But that's okay. Yeah.
Russ has been like as animated, I think, as I've seen Russ about this.
Well, you finally talked about something that interests me. How long have we been doing this now? 4 years, and it's finally happened.
Yeah.
Has it been 4 years?
I just guessed that, but it's all such a haze because I don't really pay attention.
Has it been 4 years?
Yeah, about that.
It's
Yeah.
been quite a while.
And before, when you used to do it all together, it was a haze for a completely different reason.
Yeah, it was a bit misty in the room, but yeah.
All the poppers.
Yeah, that is the rightful winner, crowned in their place for all time.
Rich, where can we find these audiobooks?
Anywhere you buy digital audiobooks, so Audible, Apple Books, Google Play, many other places, but those are the main three I would say.
And Rich, what is an audiobook?
He's muddled his way
back
through
on
this
and
Should have started with that one, really, I think.
All right, let's keep it tight. How do you spell audiobook? When people are Googling it.
ADY book. There you go.
Excellent.
That would
Brilliant.
probably work anyway.
There you go. It's close enough. Google will predict it anyway.
Google will figure it out.
Yeah.
Actually
Well, the
gonna
fact that
give
we've
that-
even had a conversation with it probably means that it'll come up on our adverts anyway now. So that's yeah. Cool.
Alexa will be chasing you around for
Wonderful.
months.
Oh, exactly. Literally chasing me. Mine's got legs.
But
It comes up with Thomas Adey.
They are amazing. If you know if there's stories you're familiar with, if there's stories you're not familiar with, give them a chance. They are a really interesting experience, no matter what your relationship with the story is already.
They are a must listen for comic fans, and they are an interesting listen for people that haven't listened to the comics in themselves, especially America, which is scarily relevant considering that was made 30 years ago.
Yeah, it was written in 1990, and
Yeah.
you're right. You said it earlier. Like, it feels like it could have been written this year.
Yeah.
It's completely up to date. It really is. Yeah.
Really,
Thank you,
really
guys.
good though, all of them. So yeah,
Thanks, Rich.
Thank
You're
you.
too kind. Thank you very much.
no worries.
So there we go. That is the Too Much Time on Our Hands podcast, live stream and audio podcast for this week. Thank you very much for joining us. If you were watching us on the YouTube live stream, thank you very much. Wave, everyone wave to them. That's what they want. That's what they like us
That's
to
what
do.
you want.
That's what I want, isn't it? Also, thanks very much for listening to us on the audio podcast. We'll go and do the thank yous in a second, but just to say, if you want to interact with us or talk to us about anything that we've spoken about today, hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook using the handle @TMTOOH. Don't forget to check the bio of our Instagram for the link to our Discord channel, because there is all sorts of stuff going on there. There's all kinds of chats, from games hardware to games to Dan's other podcast that he does, which is Wandering WandaVision, which is when him and Terry and Steve, and they get together and they talk about the series that is currently on Disney Plus.
We're going to be going past WandaVision. We're going to be just covering the Marvel series now. We've decided, and
Tremendous.
with a brief break to shit on the Snyder Cut, which I'm hoping to get everyone else involved in. If you're up for it,
Do we have to watch it?
yeah, 4 hours. You got to
I'm-
watch it.
I am not paying
Got
money
4 hours.
to spend 4 hours watching that.
I'll lend you whatever. It's and we're going to be ranking all the Christopher Nolan films as well. But then we're going to go hardcore Marvel after that.
Very exciting. So as you can see, lots and lots of content coming your way. Once again, thanks very much for joining us on the stream. Thanks very much for listening to us on the podcast if you did that. Rich from Penguin Random House, thank you very much for joining us to talk to us about 2000 AD and all the exciting stuff that you guys are doing. Employ everyone out there to go to anywhere you can buy an audiobook and get these because they are phenomenal piece of work. We're going to say goodbye, Stan.
Oh, goodbye.
We're going to say goodbye to Russ.
Laters.
We're going to say goodbye to Duncan.
Bonsoir.
We're going to say goodbye to Rich.
Gute Nacht.
It's going to be a goodbye from me. It's going to be a final happy birthday to Dan, the man.
Happy birthday, Dan.
Happy birthday, Dan.
Thank you so much, guys.
And on that note, let's cue the music.